Welcome to Charity Therapy, a podcast from Birken Law about building better nonprofits. I'm your host, Jess Birken. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. I've got Megan here with me again today. How are you, Megan?
Jess, I am so good. How are you and your rats that were just in your lap?
I am good, yes. My children have 3 pet rats, and Scabs just came and visited us and terrified Megan.
Yes, I'm not a big rat person, but I totally respect your children's rats. Also, Scabs is a very well-named rat, so whatever that conjures up for you, the listener, you're probably right on what that looks like.
Yeah, he's like a double Rex, and so he goes through periods of baldness.
Right now he's got like old man bald cap happening, and he's really patchy and just, yeah.
He looks like his name should be Scabs.
Exactly. All right, for all the other rodent phobes out there, we can move on. Jess, today I've got some questions for you, and we're going to be talking about some like board of director woes. Today it's all about what can happen when a nonprofit has a board. Hear the air quotes in me saying that. That's really just like a formality so that the founder or executive director can run everything themselves. And just I know we see this all the time. Folks come in and they want to sort of like hack the board so they don't have to bring anybody else in or convince anybody of their ideas. So before we dive into that can of worms, can you give us a little overview about how the board is supposed to function?
Yes, we do see that frequently, and we don't let those people come in as clients.
Not typically.
Okay, so how's the board supposed to work? In an ideal world, the general goal of a nonprofit board would look like this. The board is made up of at least 3 people who all have different skill sets that they bring to the nonprofit. They're all volunteers. They're not paid for their board service. They're all committed to the mission, and they all fulfill their fiduciary duties to the nonprofit, meaning they show up, they are prepared, they make decisions that are in the best interest of the organization, and legally, no person owns or controls the nonprofit. The board governs as a group collectively, and that can look different depending on the size and the structure. But ultimately, the board in an ideal nonprofit is responsible for the top level running of the organization. But like you said, frequently we run into people that want to start a nonprofit and they're the founder and they want to have sole control over the nonprofit, and it can get super ugly when that's your strategy in life.
Right. I mean, giving up control is super hard. Like, there are lots of people out there that have good intentions, and the giving up control piece is hard. But if you start a nonprofit, you really don't have a lot of choice in the matter. Like, it's not just about you. Okay. So, Jess, are you ready for the first question?
Yep.
Okay. The questioner says, I have an animal rescue that I started and I have been running out of my home for about 5 years now. I'm the executive director and the president, and I have my mom and my sister as my other 2 board members. This was the easiest way so I could get started and get everything set up and functional. But now that we're growing, I really need more help than my family can give me. I want to get more people involved, but this is my rescue, and I don't want people who will make bad decisions or shut me out of the process. How do I build a board while protecting my rescue?
I'm kind of mad at you that you're even giving me this question, Megan.
Evil laugh here.
I did not need to feel this irritated this late in the afternoon. Okay, this is my rescue. Here's the thing. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You wanted to have a nonprofit that was solely controlled by you and your little family who all support you and what you want to do. Well, fine. I guess you've managed to make that happen. Good for you. Hopefully you're following some of the laws. I don't want to hear about your expensing your mortgage because you house all the rescue animals in your living room or something. But you can't expect other people to come in and think that this is a well-run organization. And so in order to recruit other people, you either you're going to recruit them and they're going to see that this is a mess, or they're not going to understand what a mess looks like and they'll wake up 6 months later and realize this is a mess. And then they're going to be ticked. So the hard part about this is hearing that they really don't want other people involved. It's like what they're saying is, I need more help, but I need to maintain complete control over my tiny tax-deductible dictatorship. It's just so aggravating to me. But I know I want to have compassion for this person because I know generally when I see this, the person is not a schemer or a scammer. And it's usually coming out of a place of fear about what will happen if they give up control. And I get that. It's your passion, your vision. You have a very specific idea about how you want to get there. But you know the saying, no man is an island. Well, no nonprofit is an island either. You can't legally do it by yourself. And you know that. That's why you have your family member on the board. You're seeing the negatives of just stuffing the board with people who will rubber stamp your every decision. You can't possibly do everything by yourself in order to run a thriving rescue. You need help from people who are just as committed to your mission as you are. And your job as the founder is to find those people, get them enrolled and enlisted in sharing your vision, and bring them on board and be a leader. I don't have any loopholes or easy outs to share with this person. There is, not a good way to do this and be successful while keeping everything under your control. Have I seen lawyers on TV, so to speak, promising that they will make it so that your nonprofit can never get rid of you? Yes, I have. Is that proper? No, it is not. You are running a nonprofit tax-exempt entity. If you want to own it and control it, you should run a business. You should run a for-profit where you can retain control. You can be an owner. Maybe new board members that come in won't always agree with you. Maybe they will want to take the rescue in a different direction. But in the end, if you enroll them in your strategic vision, in the big ideas, the big things, the mission that you have identified, that's what really matters. And you should end up in the right place if you have a shared vision with the people on your board. Giving up control is scary, but at the end of the day, it will make the nonprofit stronger because you cannot grow by yourself in a dictatorship of one with some rubber stamps around you. You just can't.
Right. You just have to get to the point where you understand that you owe it to your mission to do what's best for the nonprofit. And at the end of the day, you white knuckling it through and trying to make it work by yourself is not what's best for the nonprofit. And even some ideas that maybe you don't personally like are what's best for the nonprofit. And even if it's hard to wrap your head around it, it's like literally the only way to move forward. So it's one of those where it's like, actually, the answer is short. You just have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the only way to move forward with integrity and ethics and the opportunity to grow is to do it the right way. If you want to stay tiny and run your tax exempt dictatorship and do things improperly and risk getting audited and risk people saying that's a scam nonprofit, don't call me for help.
Right. We've seen it before. We don't condone it. Okay, I have another question for you, and this one's coming from a different angle. So, I did a favor for my friend and I put my name down as a board member for the nonprofit that he was starting. He told me he just needed a few names to get it started, and once they were set up, they'd get a new working board in place. That was several years ago, and I never heard anything more about it. I've never been involved in a board meeting, I've never reviewed any financials, had nothing to do with the nonprofit at all. Now, all of a sudden, I'm getting a subpoena from the state attorney general because the nonprofit
Oh,
is
Lord.
under investigation. Just wait, it gets worse, for fraud and misusing thousands of dollars in government funds. Dun dun dun. What do I do?
Oh, my God. I like am speechless right now because this is so ugly. First of all, that person needs to get a lawyer. And that lawyer that lawyer probably needs to hire an expert to figure out how to help. I could come up with referrals to attorneys who do nonprofit law and do litigation, but they usually are helping the entity, and this person is like an individual. So it's just going to be so expensive and horrible for them because how much do you think that organization spent on directors and officers insurance? I bet it's zero.
Yep.
And even if they have some, that guy wasn't executing his duties.
Right. It's not looking good.
So I guess this person needs to get some help. I don't know where they're going to get it, but they need to talk to an attorney, obviously. And I would say probably the best strategy is just going to be throw yourself at the mercy of the attorney general's office and tell them everything that you know, because that's all you can do. And that's the truth. So let's break this down a little bit. Your friend lied to you, is my guess. And it's clearly because they probably had nefarious intentions for the nonprofit. You don't say what they did with this money, but I'm going to assume that it wasn't being used for charitable purposes because the AG is coming after everybody. And if you're being subpoenaed, then it's probably because you were listed as a board member and they think that you're responsible. And board members are personally liable for their actions on the board. There is some immunity depending on what state you're in and if you have insurance and all of that. But I mean, I'm going to guess that they filed the nonprofit with the free form from the state, that they don't have any good articles, that they don't have any good bylaws, that they don't have any insurance. I'm feeling pretty good in those guesses. Lord, while you're in, this person's intention was to do this friend a favor. It's important to realize that as a board member, you have agreed to take on the legal obligations, which are called fiduciary duties. And your 3 duties that you were supposed to uphold were the duty of care. So you were supposed to show up and do your job as a board member, the duty of loyalty, which means you have to put the best interests of the nonprofit above your own or your friends and family's interests. And it also means you don't abuse your position or misuse the nonprofit's money to benefit yourself. The duty of obedience, meaning you follow the rules, the laws that apply to nonprofits, and the rules of the nonprofit, meaning your articles and bylaws, if you had any, which I don't think you did, but who knows. I have no idea what's going to happen next for this person, but there's no such thing as doing board service as a quick favor. I think this person's going to have to beg for leniency from the AG, agree to testify in the trial against these people, try and claim ignorance that you didn't know. But I'm not giving you legal advice. You need to get your lawyer and ask them, because this is for reals. This is what you worry about as an attorney with my role. This is the actual thing. The actual thing happening where you hope it never happens to your clients.
Yeah, this is clearly one of those worst case scenarios where we can tell people, you shouldn't just rubber stamp and be a board member on paper and not in reality. This is the worst case scenario of what that looks like when it goes wrong. You are literally being sued for something potentially that you don't even have any idea what's going on.
I can't even imagine the anxiety that this person is enduring right now.
And you got to feel bad because at the end of the day, it sounds like it's coming. I mean, we don't have very many details,
Mm-mm.
but it sounds like this person probably said yes, like they say, as a favor, and just genuinely had no idea what they were agreeing to. And it was completely in a place of being ignorant of what it means to be a board member. And I
Yep.
think obviously not in this extreme, but we do work with some of our clients where some of the board members just like genuinely don't realize what their role is or what's so important about their being a board member. And normally it doesn't involve getting random subpoenas that you don't know what's going on, but it does matter to know what you're getting into.
Well, and the difference with our clients is they're our clients.
Yeah.
They actually like call a lawyer and
Yep.
ask for advice. And then we help their board members understand their duties.
Exactly.
And they, on some level, give two shits about doing it right.
Exactly. Right.
Crazy town. What do we have to take away from this?
Yeah, we got a couple things. I think the first takeaway is a really general just when you are running a charity of any kind, whether it's a rescue or something totally different, it's important just to try to do things right. Like, just because it's more difficult to do things right does not mean that you should take the easy way out. And one major way we see that is, stuffing the board with people who will say yes to your every need.
It's difficult to be a parent too. And if you just give your kid candy every time they ask for it, you're not a very good parent. Sometimes you got to do a little extra work because it's what's best.
Exactly. And the same is true with a nonprofit.
Yes, nonprofits can't eat all the candy they want either.
Exactly. Exactly. Another big one along those lines is you do not own a nonprofit and you cannot have 100% total control of a nonprofit, even if you are the founder of the organization.
Yes.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You don't get tax exempt status and you still get to do whatever you want and nobody cares. Part of, going through the process of getting your tax exempt status and other benefits you might have as being a nonprofit is that you don't get total control without anyone looking over your shoulders. And I think the last big takeaway is that there is no such thing as board member light. You are either a board member or you are not. And if you are signing on to be a board member, you have real legal obligations. And sometimes those can catch up to you. So you need to know what you're agreeing to when you decide to come on as a board and fulfill those obligations.
Board member light. I like that. It makes me think of an app that's just like terrible. You have to upgrade. There is no light
Right.
version.
It makes me think the first thing I thought of was those terrible, diet ads back in the day where it's like you want the real thing, but you're going to get the light version where it's low fat, low cal, low everything, and it just tastes like nothing.
Being on a nonprofit is drinking a Guinness.
If you don't have the stomach for it, you shouldn't sign up.
That's right. That's right. Oh, well, Megan, this was a doozy. Thank you for being here with these crazy questions. Folks, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs it. You know somebody who says, I have a nonprofit. Share this with them. Hello to you who just got this episode shared with you by your friend. You don't have a nonprofit. Anyway, rate, review, subscribe us on your podcast app. It really does help me out. If you have a question, if you have received a subpoena, send us a message.
Maybe call a lawyer first, but yes.
Maybe call a lawyer first, yes. But then send us a message on charitytherapy.show or leave a voice memo by calling 612-208-9120. Thanks and bye-bye. All right, folks, that's our show. Be sure to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Jess Birken. We want to hear from you. Send us a message at our website, charitytherapy.show. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at birkenlaw.com/signup. Charity Therapy is a production of Birken Law Office, PLLC. Our theme song is by Whalehawk. And remember, folks, this podcast is produced for your entertainment and is not a substitute for actual legal advice.